Everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm so happy you're joining me. I want to share with you a story coming out of New York. I had said years ago that I wanted to see more Black people start to sue. We're not really known for suing. Instead of the crying all the time on TikTok and on here about racism and discrimination from a company and all of that, and there's nothing wrong with expressing yourself, but hit them in their pockets. It's time to start suing. Other people have been suing for decades, and a lot of us tend to let things slide and companies get away with doing things. Now, Robynn Europe, and I know ironically her last name is Europe, she sued Equinox for discrimination for racism. She was working for them as a trainer. She got fired, and the courts were able to prove it was racism, and she recently won $11.25 million. Yes, so Robynn is the woman on the left in the green sweater. So let me share with you her story and what happened. So Robynn is the woman right there in the green sweater on the left. So let me share with you her story on what happened. Okay, Black fitness professional sued Equinox, and the jury awards her with millions. New York City fitness professional Robynn Europe, as you can see on the left, she worked at Equinox gym on Manhattan's Upper East Side for less than a year. But she claims her time there was so stressful that it affected her health. And when she was ultimately fired, she argued it had nothing to do with her performance. And I know some people might be surprised, right? Manhattan, New York City. New York City is a melting pot. New York City is diverse, but New York City is also very segregated. New York City, because it's full of people from different countries, they come from countries where they're already racist, and they're thrown in an environment full of all different types of people around them. Now, people who have lived in New York for years, a number of New York people get along, very cultured, get along, friendships, used to each other because you've been raised around each other forever. But there are also a number of people new to the city from the South and the U.S., from other countries again. And even if they are third generation, I mean, if their parents were racist and grandparents, a lot of it is passed down, and just tension sometimes between cultures and all of that. That's just a fact. So don't think just because New York City has so much diversity that racism doesn't go on. Yes, it does all throughout the city. It might not be as hardcore all the time as what you see in the South, but trust me, it does exist. So she said that her health was affected. She was fired, and she said it had nothing to do with her performance. Equinox claims they fired Robynn Europe for being late 47 times in 10 months. But Europe called BS. She called BS, saying racism and sexism led to her termination. She took her complaint to court, filing a lawsuit with a Manhattan federal judge, claiming the gym was a hostile work environment and that her firing had more to do with her race and gender than her attendance record. Interesting, because it's not uncommon for a lot of women to be trainers these days. It's not uncommon at all, but sexism still does exist. That's a fact. And she's a woman, and she's a Black woman. Okay, so you have to take this serious because stuff like this does happen. Europe claims that a white manager who reported to her took issue with her authority and on several occasions made offensive comments about Black women's bodies and employees of color at the gym. According to the New York Times, Europe claims that the environment was so stressful that the bulimia she struggled with for much of her life worsened, and she eventually had to enter an inpatient treatment program for eating disorders. So it is interesting that she had bulimia. She suffered still with bulimia, but became a trainer to help other people stay in shape. And look at her. She's very in shape. Look at her abs. Look at her legs. This manager felt the need to talk about Black women's bodies. I guess the Black women who came in, she has a really good shape. On May 16th, the jury of 5 women and 3 men awarded Europe with $11.25 million in damages, $10 million in punitive damages, and $1.25 million for distress. Miss Robynn Europe will also receive $16,000 in back pay. Now, there was some people who see this might think, really? Here's the thing. They had to have a little bit of evidence, right? They probably could see the records. You can check and see if somebody has been late. They also could check to see if she did have to go into treatment for bulimia. They would have records of the hospital visits. They gather all of that. Did she go to the hospital? What did she say in writing? I know there are HIPAA laws and stuff like that, but maybe they can get that information and check her record. Also, they probably talked to other people who work there. Maybe there were other people, because she said the manager said things about other people of color there. Maybe they also were interviewed where they stated, yes, he has done this and all of that. Equinox is standing by its claim that they did nothing wrong, arguing that an investigation found no evidence of discrimination based on race or sex. Instead, they believe the jury seemingly was guided by sympathy and emotion. The gym has filed a motion to have the case reevaluated, not because they don't believe the worker made racist and sexist comments, but because there wasn't enough, to create a hostile work environment for Europe to justify the amount of the settlement. So they're mad she got this much money. That's $11.25 million is not a little bit of money. So they're like, no, you're going to have to, we need more solid evidence because this is what she's saying. So they think, maybe it was a bunch of woke people or sympathizing because she's a woman, she's a black woman. And, the environment of racism so much we see in this country all over the news all the time. But I would assume that they investigated. And of course, they're going to say this because they're the ones who have to give out the money. But I would assume they investigated what I said, her hospital records for the bulimia, the treatment, maybe her therapist, if she went there, any complaints, her records of if she was late 47 times, as they said. So, and listen, I'm not saying that nobody can't lie. Plenty of people can lie, but I feel, for them to give her $11.25 million, there had to have been some type of evidence, That's why if you're going through discrimination or on a job or something, try to gather up as much evidence as you possibly can. Something. She has not produced any evidence she was treated less well or that her employment was terminated because of her race or sex, says Equinox. Okay, in a statement by her attorney, Susan Crumler expressed her satisfaction that justice was served. She said, "The jury sent a loud message to Equinox that there are serious consequences for corporations that permit racist and sexist behavior in the workplace. We are also pleased that the jury found Equinox racism had, a severe and lasting impact on her mental health and that she deserved to be compensated for it. Let this be a warning to all businesses in New York that if you try to brush harassment and discrimination under the rug, you will not get away with it," she said. Okay, so this is more information. This is more information of what happened from another article. Again, Equinox has to pay her $11.25 million after one of the former trainers, Robynn on the left, said, the lawyers convinced a jury in New York that her firing was racially motivated, not because she was late for work 47 times. In the jury trial, Robynn Europe, 39 years old, did not dispute Equinox's claims about her tardiness, but said other trainers who were late a similar number of times were not penalized. Okay, so she was late sometimes, but said that the other people, I assume, white people, they were not penalized. The jury found again that she's a professional bodybuilder, okay, and was training, that she was subjected to a hostile work environment that had unfairly fired her based on her race and her gender. She testified that a manager who reported her, Christopher Maltman, often made vulgar remarks about Black women's bodies, diverted personal training clients from employees of color, and regularly harassed staff with offensive language. A statement from her lawyer says the manager, Christopher Maltman, is still working at the gym. Okay, in a statement, her lawyer said that his Equinox behavior is appalling and that justice prevailed. This is not only a win for our client, but for all Black women who have faced that harmful combination of racism and sexism that is all too often tolerated in the workplace. We couldn't be more proud of Robynn for her unwavering determination to hold Equinox accountable for its misogyny. Robynn compared her treatment at Equinox to her experiences as a scholarship student at the exclusive Brearley School on the East 83rd Street in an interview with the New York Times, where she said she was subjected to similar casual racism. Again, according to the New York Times, the jury awarded her millions of dollars, and the jury was mostly white and consisted of 5 women and 3 men. Robynn told the New York Times she has been working as a trainer since 2006 and is using that to become a professional bodybuilder. She also previously studied art in a college and aspired to be a tattoo artist. They also said racism and sexism, they are ubiquitous in the fitness industry, Robynn said. She said she described those in power in the industry as predominantly white and male. In coastal cities, working out is something you can do without a degree, and you can make $75 an hour. There aren't many opportunities to do that, so it's a big draw for people of color. Her lawyers argue that Christopher Maltman's refusal to accept Robynn Europe as his superior in the workplace. That's what he was mad about. She was his superior. They said that he openly said he wanted to fire non-white employees and called someone autistic. In another case, he was accused of demanding Robynn Europe to stand outside with him so he could pass a young Black woman leaving work close to the gym. They said that he thought he would look better if he was with a Black person when he approached. Robynn Europe also said that Equinox, the company, she accused them of requiring at least one customer, a white man, to have a white trainer. On the same day she filed a complaint about this, she received a second formal warning for being late. That was 3 months before she was fired. The manager who complied with the request for a white trainer was also eventually fired. All of this led to Robynn Europe having a relapse of bulimia that she has battled most of her life. The bulimia got so bad she started vomiting blood. Equinox plans to appeal again the jury's decision. Robynn Europe used to be a trainer at the Sports Center at Chelsea Piers in New York City while she was seen there from Rack.com. She was named the hottest trainer. She won the hottest trainer contest. In an interview with the website, Robynn Europe said she was the least athletic person you'll ever meet. I was kind of a total lardo until I decided I wanted to get my life healthy, get my body in order, and I became a trainer. She also talked about her love for New York City and punk music and things like that and nail art. She said, often women who bodybuild are labeled as masculine, but nothing says feminine like a Hello Kitty manicure with pink bows on your nails. She said she has been straight most of her life, doesn't drink, smoke, or use drugs, including marijuana. Okay, so that is it for this story. I know there are people who might think, did it really happen? This is very common. It's not uncommon, number one, for women to face sexual harassment or sexual comments or treated a certain way by men. I experienced that at one of my first jobs when I was treated differently than the guys that worked there, you know, and I did not like it, where I just was mistreated. I'll say that I was mistreated and the guys got away with things on the job. So that does exist. Or your people wanting to sleep with you on the job, your boss trying to sleep with you, or bullying you and things like that. And Discrimination and racism that Black women and some Black men face is not uncommon whatsoever. And she said it reminded her of her days in college where she was around casual racism. That definitely does happen, but oftentimes Black people tend to stay silent about it. And then, I mean, you have to be able to prove a lot of this, you know? So I assume they did an investigation where maybe, again, they talked to other people who work there, or they checked if she was in that hospital for her health records, suffering from the eating disorder, going to somewhere for her mental health, checking her records and the other records of the other employees to see were they tardy a lot, just like she was tardy sometimes, late, and they weren't fired. At the end of the day, they were able to prove it. They sided with her. Okay, these were 5 women, 3 men, majority white. So people will also look at that, and then they'll think, well, you know, was they just siding with her because she was Black and they felt sorry? No, I believe they really looked into it. And I'm not saying no one cannot lie and stuff, but I don't think she made this up. And she has won $11.25 million. I hope this inspires more Black people who are, in fact, victims of racism and discrimination to just you don't have to take it. Sue them. There was a woman who won a few $1 million out in the Midwest, I think, a few months ago, where she went to a gas station. This was an older Black woman, and they didn't service her. They said, we don't pump the gas or service Black people. You know what she did? She sued, and she won a couple million. That's what I'm talking about. Kudos to her and anyone else who faces discrimination and racism. When that does happen to you, you do not get all the evidence you can and sue if you are wrongfully terminated or not compensated correctly. They're mistreating you. They're abusing you. They're doing you dirty, saying racist remarks around you and all types of stuff like that. And as a woman, any kind of, you know, sexism, if that happens, you can sue for it. The mental distress you go through with that. So that is all. And I thank you all for joining me. I will be sharing more stories with you. I can't wait to hear your opinion. Do you think this was right? Do you believe her? You don't believe her? Are you happy for her? Do you want to sue someone, a company who was racist towards you or wrongful termination? Like, leave your thoughts. I can't wait. Make sure you hit the bell and all notifications so you will know when I'm live and when I upload. Thank you so much again for joining me. Bye, everyone.